Fifth and sixth year players from the University of Virginia's football team has been granted an extra year of eligibility. The question is, who will take advantage of it?
You are Locked On Virginia, your daily podcast on the Virginia Cavaliers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good day, viewers and listeners. I am your host, Big Law Lawrence Johnson, and welcome to the Locked On Virginia Cavaliers podcast, your first place to come to get your Wahoo fix every day as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. So yes, everybody, as I said in the open, the University of Virginia's football team, as far as their fifth, sixth year, their seniors, grad transfers, however we want to put it, super seniors, all have been granted an extra year of eligibility from the NCAA. The request, quietly, of course, was put in by Carla, the AD at the University of Virginia. Nobody knew that this was kind of going on, but let me ask you something. Is it something that maybe they shouldn't have taken advantage of, or is it something that a lot of people felt like it's totally justified? I know that we're going to have some fans who are on both sides of the fence, just like we had fans on both sides of the fence that said you should end the year prematurely, or you should let the guys play for the ones who wanted to play. But I think all in all, this is probably a good thing. You're looking at players who did not get to finish out their senior year or their grad transfer year. And, based off of the tragedy, it's been just a long, tough road right now, based off of, what happened at the end of the year with the slain UVA players that were, we're talking about Lavelle Davis, Deshaun Perry. Oh, man. And, it just kind of, gives you a feeling of sadness, every time, you speak of, and Devin Chandler, you get a feeling of sorrow when you speak about it. But I think this is a good thing. As many times as we get upset about what the NCAA has done to players and to teams, as far as suspensions, as far as anything else, or granting extra years or not granting years or taking things away, this is probably one of the better things that they've done. I think it was a smart move by the AD, Carla Wright, to bring that up to the NCAA and to request it on the back end, and then of course getting it approved and then putting it out. I think it's a good look. I think the players that'll take advantage of it will see some, we'll probably get some healing from it as well. Maybe they're not ready to move on, to the next level or whatever. Now, you do have some players that are like pro eligible, or excuse me, pro prospects. Pro eligible is not the word. They are pro prospects, like an Anthony Johnson, who was first team All ACC. Who came to University of Virginia 2 years ago after playing 3 years at Louisville. So, he right now is on the radar for being, maybe one of the top cornerbacks drafted next year. You have another, wide receiver, and I'm going to roll some names off here to you. You're talking about a Billy Kemp, another 5-year wide receiver who is, one of the top slots when he's healthy, one of the top slot wide receivers in the ACC. Of course, last year was just a horrible year for him. He had a really, really, really tough year, with injuries, and just seems like, and he had, some drops as well. The whole team had drops. But, before this year, he had been a very reliable, very good slot cornerback. But other players, you had Keaton Thompson, preseason first team wide receiver. He played. One thing about Keaton being that he's 6'5", 212. He could play all over the field. He came from Mississippi State as a quarterback, but did not win a quarterback job here. So he became kind of what is a slash position, similar to what Cordell Stewart was, where he could play some quarterback. He could play in that wildcat position. Also, he would play a little bit of tight end. He could line up on the outside. He would play some running back. He would also play naturally this year. He played more in the slot, being that he's a big receiver. They used him more so, as that big slot position. But, the previous coaching staff used him more so all over the field. It made him more of a hybrid player than they did this year. But he's another. He could have left last year. He was a pro prospect anyway, but he's gonna get another year. But I don't know if he's willing to come back as well. So let me rattle off these names. I said Billy Kemp, who could come back. Anthony Johnson, the cornerback, who has declared for the NFL draft, just like Billy, but maybe one of them will come back. I'm thinking Billy may come back. Then you talk about grad transfer, a guy, Cam Butler, who transferred in from Miami, Ohio. He may, want to get an extra year. He had a great year playing that defensive end or that stand-up bandit position for Coach Radzinski, the defensive coordinator at UVA. And then, of course, another player who played the other defensive end and also the opposite bandit position. You're talking about Chico Bennett. Chico Bennett was twice a defensive lineman of the week in the ACC. Was a top 5 player in sacks before the tragedy in the ACC. So should a player like Chico Bennett, who was a grad transfer in from Georgia Tech this year, who was an impact player on that much improved defense for the University of Virginia. Chico Bennett might be the guy that that has an opportunity to come back and make continue his journey unimpeded. Whenever that tragedy struck, it really just just derailed everything, which it should. It just devastated everybody. But like I was saying yesterday, how do you recover totally? You never really do. And how do you feel the team? Those are kind of the things that I worry about for the spring, for the spring game that comes in a couple or 2.5, 3 months now, of spring practice. How do you feel the team? But you got to keep going. This is college football, and the TV contracts, the conference, is going to want, their pound of flesh, from these players, so, and these coaches. So they have to keep the ball rolling. Other players, that could come back, that could possibly be eligible. You're talking about Jack Camper, transfer in, also, who could, he transferred in from Michigan State, 757 guy who played the same position, similar position like Chico Bennett, Cam Butler, that defensive end stand-up bandit on the defensive line. Nick Jackson, all-world middle linebacker. Coach Elliot had even said he had been trying to recruit him to, and he may have he's graduated, but he may have another year eligibility. But Nick Jackson may be on that list as well, as he could take advantage of the extra year given by the NCAA, as he is a graduate. Darius Bratton, a safety / corner. He played corner 2 years ago. Last year he played safety. He could come back. And Devontae Davis, offensive lineman, who could also have the opportunity to come back. So this is huge breaking news, given that there's been so much negativity and so much sorrow around the program. This is a huge break, I think, for the football players. But I'll have to talk about someone else who this could be a break for and an opportunity to make amends. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager. For your small business, you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. You can go make yourself a profile and add the purple hashtag. The purple hashtag will help you find people that actually give you an opportunity to find the people you want faster. Also, with LinkedIn Jobs, you can absolutely find the best candidates that you need to hire. Having a technical difficulty right now, but yes, they help you find the proper people faster, the candidates with the right skill set and experience to quickly prioritize who you'd like to have in your hiring process. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at the linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So yes, everyone, we definitely are thinking, these players get an opportunity, a second chance to make this their last year correct. Now, this is not going to affect any players who actually had eligibility left. Only going to affect the players who pretty much lost, the end of their year based off of this tragedy. Now, this is kind of ticky-tacky. Some people will say, some people may agree, some people may not. But I said I'd tell you, someone else could probably make amends, and that's Coach Elliot. Is Coach Elliot going to make kind of a amends to some of those players? Some of these seniors, that are out there that or graduate transfers that came into, they came to the school with him in his first year, and let's just say things didn't go well, and things were not going well. And I'm not going to say that it was maybe a somewhat of some arrogance there because of, maybe he felt like his system would ultimately work, on the offensive side of the ball, which it never got off the ground. It was absolutely abysmal. It was terrible. And it got to a point where people, a lot of the fan base, was upset with the players. But when it's long-term issues like that, and you're still going through some of the same things, and you're having some of the same issues that you had in the beginning of the year on the offensive side of the ball, that kind of falls back on coaching. I get some of the stuff in the beginning of the year, all new, play schemes, all, new calls and everything. But when it really gets to the end of the year, and there's, players still maybe not running the proper routes, the right depth. Also, still having some offensive linemen having issues with blocking. And that may be a talent thing as well. Let me be clear on that. Some of these guys may not just have the talent to be to play in this offense. Because remember, UVA wound up losing. They wound up losing 5 starters and a backup, that had had some experience. So they were definitely on the back end of all of this. When it comes to players having experience, and they had maybe one returner who had some light experience, not a lot of experience in. I've not saying that I kind of lost faith in what they could do, but I just didn't feel like, it was something that, the way that they were teaching it, they did not adjust. Now you can be a great coach, okay? And you can have a great scheme. You can be incredible, phenomenal play caller, but you have to adjust. This was a classic issue of adjusting to your talent that you have on your roster. And it never happened. We were, I said it before, hammering square pegs in round holes, and the kids never conformed. They never, fit exactly. And that's, I'm not going to blame them totally. It's almost like, and one of my guys at the Augusta Press, Chris Graham, has said it. I'm typically going to side with the players, especially for a long-term issue, over leadership. You know what I mean? So, if you're the leader and you are responsible for what, is supposed to happen, and you feel like, it should be going at a certain level and it's not, and it's been going on for a long time, that's leadership. That is the folks that are in charge. So let's put it on that. And, Brennan Armstrong, it's proven that offense is not a fit for him. I don't blame him for transferring out. You got some young men who have transferred out, when the transfer portal opened up. We're talking Brennan Armstrong, as I just said, Fentrell Cypress, who is one of the top cornerbacks coming back in college football. He was a top 10 quarterback by Pro Football cornerback and Pro Football Focus when it comes to breakups, pass completion percentage against him. He is in the transfer portal. He led the ACC in PBUs. That's pass breakups, viewers and listeners. So that is going to be somewhat of a difficult person to replace Chase Chalmers as well. Chase Chalmers, who is who's a special teams player who did get some time out there playing, and he's gonna be in the transfer portal. You lost Lee Dudley, the long snapper, which may not seem like a big deal now, but we know how many issues UVA has had during their special teams periods, regardless of who is the coach. I don't know. Mike London, we had some issues. Bronco, in the beginning, we had some issues. They tightened that up pretty well. And, of course, now we've had some issues on special teams. Even though it wasn't as bad, that was something that actually got better, with the punters. Also, you're talking about, in the portal as well, Sean Moore, a wide receiver who played for Dontavian Wicks when he went down, who has some time. You're going to have Zach Tedder, who also was a guard for the offensive line, which we need every offensive lineman that we didn't have and every offensive player that we did have that is trying to leave the University of Virginia. Then you had also Mark Wagner, actually he hasn't played. Mark Wagner was a more of a practice quarterback who entered the transfer portal. So there's just a lot of things that a lot of moving tentacles that are going on for this University of Virginia football team. And, who knows, where is the next spot to go next from here. But they did get another year of eligibility. I think it's a good thing overall. Out of all the things the NCAA has done, this is one of the better things that I can give them the tip of the hat. That was a good move, a great move, in spite of the tragedy that has happened at University of Virginia for some players that truly wanted to have a full year and finish out their year. Now that doesn't say anything, towards the play on the field, which was terrible, on the offensive side of the ball based off of what we are used to seeing for the last couple years. But we'll see how this all shakes out. Thank you for making Locked On Virginia your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. For the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. BetOnline is your number one source for betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, we've got it all at BetOnline. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest, easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. So yes, everyone. Also, in other news, at University of Virginia, has granted the three players who were slain, Devin Chandler, Lavelle Davis, and Deshaun Perry, with posthumous degrees for all three of them guys, man. So their family got their degrees at in what they were studying. Just another good gesture from the University of Virginia, in the middle of this tragedy. So that's something that I had to report on, and I think it's just a beautiful thing for them to do that. And these guys will be missed, and we will keep you guys updated on that. I think even today there's going to be some information coming out of the court for the accused shooter as well, and I will report on that as well. I think it's the only right thing to do is to keep everybody up to date on that case, and what happens with that young man. But back to the football news. As I was saying earlier, how do you feel the team? I don't know. I don't know in the spring if 3 months is enough time to heal. It's going to have to be, but is it really going to be enough time to get your head straight? For the guys to figure out if they want to continue to play football, for this university. That's why I expected a mass exodus of players. It really wasn't quite as bad as I thought. I mean, yes, you lose Brennan Armstrong to the transfer portal. Yes, you lose Fentrell Cypress. But all the other players that I had named to you, a lot of those folks were fringe starters, not even fringe starters. They were backups and a step below backups. Maybe a little bit of special teams, but I was expecting a lot of players to leave, and then to be a lot of players granted, and maybe this is what was going on in the locker room before, and maybe this is what was going on amongst the team is, we're going to get you guys another year of eligibility. And maybe that's why there's not as many kids in the transfer portal. There it is. I may have solved the case on the first day of the story. So, maybe that's why we didn't see as many kids transfer out because they were given an extra year. Now, I'm pretty sure you're only going to be given that extra year. You know what? That's a good question. It just came up in my mind. Will they give you that extra year if you transfer out to another school? So let's say, you're on this UVA team that had this tragedy. The NCAA just grants you another year of eligibility. But you say, you know what? I don't want to stay here. And they wind up going to Georgia Tech, or they go to Clemson, or they go anywhere else. Can they take that year? Will that year travel with them? Or do they have to stay at the University of Virginia? We can't assume that they want to stay here. I always said when you have a tragedy like this, the healing starts, or it goes on and starts any way that they need to be healed. We can't gauge or try to force somebody to heal a certain way. We got to let them go off on their own and deal with it personally, how they're used to dealing with it. So, yes, can they take that? And I'll have to find that information out for you guys. Is that only eligible at the University of Virginia, or can they take that on the road with them if they wanted to transfer out? Just some more news, with the football program. Not to mention, as we get to the end here, that the basketball team and the men's basketball team and the women's basketball team are both on exam break right now. And how about both of the teams are undefeated? We got the men at 8-0. The ladies at 11-0. I went to watch them play against William and Mary because that is in striking distance, kind of close to me. And the ladies did very well. You know, they beat William and Mary by 29 points. Mira McLean, again, you know, watching the young ladies play in person is a huge difference than watching them on television. You can see who is super talented just by the way that they move up and down the court. You know, sometimes the court, you know, the screen, if you're watching, you know, it on television, they'll focus on the ball handler. But when you watch the players off the ball, you know, you watch the talent. Amira McLean is a step above everybody. Between her and Sam Brunell is a beast. She's mean. You know, her and Cameron Taylor down low, they are tough, aggressive, and they bang down low, man. They really get at it. And I see why University of Virginia, Virginia's women's team is one of the top offensive rebounding teams in the nation. They just get after it, man. But they won 11-0, and they have a big game coming up. 2 weeks they play Duke, so we'll keep you guys up to date on that game. And then the men, of course, on break, exam break, but not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, they have the number one team in the nation coming to the grounds at the University of Virginia, and that's Houston. All right, this Houston team, some people are talking about Phi Slamma Jamma. Remember them with Clyde Drexler and how explosive they were. They are talking about talking about that team of yesteryear, where they're just very explosive and can put up a lot of points and just play some lockdown defense. And it's true. They absolutely can do this. And they're a tough team that I think that UVA is going to have to try to match up with. But the biggest thing right now is for the guys to get rest, to take this break and get those injuries sewn up if they can. You know, you got Reese Beekman, who has a hamstring injury, took a real nasty fall the other night and could not return, had ice on his hamstring on the bench after 4 minutes of just playing, after driving to the bucket and making a goal. Kihei Clark also a little banged up. I think his ankle injury. And then any other players who are just trying to fight through some injuries. So, you know, hopefully, you know, they can take this time, heal up, and get ready to play the number one team in the nation. Remember, University of Virginia was number 3 this week. I think they may get moved up to number 2 because the University of Texas was number 2 and they lost the other night. So University of Virginia may wind up being the number 2 team. And of course, like I said before, the media will probably, ask for that. And the AP will probably do that because to have a true 1 versus 2 at this time of the year before conference play is always good for television and always good for the drama of the sport. But I can tell you this, guys, I really appreciate you guys, you know, for tuning in, you know, every day. I appreciate Locked On for having me, but I can tell you, thank you for making Locked On Virginia your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. For the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local sports experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Love you guys.